Hey guys, this is Grandmaster Jerry Fast sponsored to another episode of Handmade Power Talk, spoke to our illustrator at the Dojine, sponsored by UMIND, Unified Martial Arts Network. So today we're taking it all the way across the river, the ocean, the water, to the UK, but reality all around the world, all the way from Florida to the UK to California. Man, this guy travels quite a bit. When I first met him, it was pretty interesting. It was in a competition in Brooklyn, New York, Brooklyn, USA, as they say. And this gentleman had a mask on, very similar to some of the top fighters of the time. Anyhow, one day we competed, pretty interesting event. But then a few months after, he whipped my butt. One of the few people that I can honestly say absolutely bar none beat me hands down. Anyhow, had a chance to break bread with him all the way in London, I believe. In addition to that, he's been not only just a top fighter, probably the first person to bring the Blitz to all of Europe, besides the Americans going there before. Multiple world champion, has been a trainer of people who. Anyway, I'm getting tired of just so many accolades, and I'm not even remembering most of them. Without further ado, the Jedi, my brother from another mother, Kevin Brewerton. Are you there, sir?
I'm right here.
Yeah, baby.
Thanks for the great introduction, and I appreciate that. And you have been a tireless supporter and great champion of the martial arts yourself, so it's great to be in good company.
Well, I appreciate it. But for whatever it's worth, it's not about me. This is about you and for all of us. That means you, us. So we're going to go way back to the beginning. What was your inspiration, your desperation, or your motivation to start in the martial arts? What year was it approximately, and what style was it, and where at? I'm going to put myself on mute, so you got the mic, sir.
Okay, so, I think I was about 12 years old, and there was a few things happening in my life then, one of which was Bruce Lee was out there, and then I'd seen the Bruce Lee movie, and I really got inspired by that. So that was had a huge impact on me. And then I was also, it was at a time in my life when I got some news about I was looking for my father. I didn't know who my father was at the time, and I was kind of searching for him. So I was this little guy who was trying to find his identity. And I was, looking at ways to, find my father at the time. And I probably had a lot of anger. And, finding my way into martial arts was a great vehicle for me. I didn't know it at the time. So I think that was happening with me subconsciously because it was allowing me to express myself and allowing me to kind of, find a place for myself in the world where I felt comfortable. And, and martial arts was terrific. Also, I had I used to box. I used to do boxing and kung fu and what have you, all of the styles at the same time. So it was a really great opportunity for me to kind of really gather all this information and learn from these great fighters and just be this kid growing up in the fight world and absorbing all of that. And so that would be kind of the impact on me. So I think for me, my energy was about trying to prove myself at an early age. And I think probably, as I mentioned about my father, probably in the back of my head, I was thinking, if I can prove myself, or if I can be a champion, or if I can get to some level, that maybe, he'd be proud of me, or he'd find me, or what have you. So these are the kind of things that I think some of the driving forces that were in my life at the time. So I think it helped me in a great way as a fighter because it fueled me. It was a healthy way too. So it allowed me to burn off a lot of any of the negative energy that was around that and fuel me as a fighter to do great things.
Well, you know what? That's really interesting because all of us have a very similar story. Quite a few, 99% of the people on these Power Talks have been motivated by a guy who transcended to a whole other level years ago, man. The little dragon himself, Don Juan. Bruce Lee. Now, what was the style? I believe you were doing loud guard or something like that. Come on, let's get some specifics here. Was it what year did you actually step into that school? And did the guy with the big head there that I love, did he beat you up or something?
Yeah.
Come on, talk to me.
Okay. I started loud guard. I started with, I had two guys that I first started with. One was Robert Tim and Steve Babs. And they were like, the guys I was looking up to and training with, teaching me. And, I saw, as you said, everyone who wasn't inspired by Bruce Lee. So I had that going down. And then these guys who I was trying to impress every week, going into the school, walking into the dojo and training, just working hard, man. It was in the church hall, and we just worked hard, kicked ass, and it was all about like trying to find your way. I had, like everyone else, you start out, you got two left feet, you can't move your hands, you try to do anything, it seems tough, it seems like you're not getting anywhere, and then it just comes together finally over a lot of years, as you know yourself. But what was driving me back then too is I was a huge fan of Muhammad Ali too. So I used to study Ali, watch him. So it was a combination of Ali and Bruce, and those guys were like huge on me. Steve Babs at the time was an amazing fighter. He was. Let me break it down the other way. Let me start with walking into the dojo and seeing Robert Tin, who's this Asian martial artist, and after seeing Bruce Lee and then seeing seeing Robert Tim, I'm like, okay, this guy is like, he's just like Bruce, and he's got all the moves, and he looks slick, and he's got the black sash, and he's got all he's got all of his attire on, and you're like, I want to be like that. I want to be like Bruce Lee. I want to be like this guy Robert Tim. So that was the very first, that was a starting block for me. And then Steve Babs came in, and he kind of came into the school and started teaching it. And what he brought, he was an amazing, absolutely amazing fighter. And he had this style that was, he brought his own style to it. It was very rhythmic and very, what can I say? It had a lot.
He must have some flavor and some swag. That's called flavorful with style, baby.
That's right, man. And that's exactly what it was. And so he was thrown down, and we had, from the fighting perspective, working the traditional side, and then working the fighting aspect, because he knew the fight game, being a fighter. So you got the training from the fighter's perspective and the traditional perspective. So he had this flair and he had this style that he infused within the teaching, and that was great. I just remember every week I'd go home and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna train. So every day I would work hard for about an hour, 2 hours, just go in my room and practice and come back the next week and try to impress him. And then sometimes that wouldn't work. So I'd come back and I'd just keep trying and just finally just kept going and going until you just got better and better. But they were great days. The early days were kind of dark because you didn't know what you were doing. You were just fighting your way through it, having a good time some of the times, and forming bonds and friendships with people.
Do you remember what year it was?
I think we're talking probably about 76, 77, I think. Something around there.
Hey, listen, so Jedi, obviously we know each other for quite a while. We call each other Fashion and Jedi, which are alter egos, because it's better than talking, to Jerry Fontenot than Kevin Brewerton, I'll tell you that much, So I'd rather speak to the Jedi and Fashion. Guys are interesting characters that really were frenemies, They're just freaking pretty awesome. But check this out. I want to know, in a nutshell, guys, please understand that what's happening here, and this is what I want to know, Jedi, know. If I can only go to war with 300 people on my team, just like the movie 300, you, Mr. Kevin Brewerton, the Jedi, are on one of my 300, baby.
Thank you. That's a great honor. You know, I remember, fighting in Brooklyn, fighting in New York a lot, and I do remember the first time that I saw you. I just remember you coming out. I don't know if you were coming out from the warm-up area. You had your crew around you, and you were coming out into to fight. And I was thinking, who is this guy? That was the first time I ever saw you, and you had this great energy about you, and style and confidence. I'm thinking, who is this guy? Okay, we're going to be fighting. I'm sure we're going to wind up fighting one day. How are we going to fight this guy? Because you were like, legs were everywhere. Style was great. I'm like, wow, this guy's pretty sweet. I like his style.
Hey, I appreciate it, but let's just get some chronological scheduling here, because for whatever is done, guys, those of you listening, he hasn't said it, but understand this. This is the first conversation we've had on a Power Talk for anybody in a few different things. First, it's the first person in California who's relocated to California, has been for well over a decade and a half. But this is also the first fighter from the UK that we actually talking to, guys, not the last, but the first one. And I've been holding back on a few of these people, believe it or not. So I got people from California, people also from the UK that have been putting on hold until I had you be first. I'm a little biased, So check this out. So now, what province, city, state, area was this? In what country? Because we're already assuming that you guys, you're on here. Because believe it or not, our viewers actually thought that you and I trained together here in the United States, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, which is great. This is in Newcastle. I was born in England, and then I was back and forth to the U.S. When I was a teenager. And so that is the connection. And when I first started martial arts and got into with Steve Babs and Robert Kim, that was in England. That was in Newcastle, England. And those guys were, we're talking about people there who haven't ever seen, martial arts is a very, it's an exotic thing to do. I mean, I think coming to England, period, martial arts in England is a very exotic thing because it's from another country, it's from the Far East, it's another world. There's all these people that inhabit it. So it's like bringing that style and bringing all those things that the martial arts bring. It was like, something totally different for a lot of people. I think that's one of the great things about it, because it crossed a lot of boundaries and it helped to unite a lot of people and give people another perspective about, of a world perspective. And I think that's one of the great things about martial arts.
Hey, can you mention, do you remember when you started actually competing over there in England?
Yeah, I started I was competing right from when I was about 12, 13. I was competing early. And I had an interesting trajectory. I mean, I was always trying to find my way, always trying to, just do well. And I think for me, what happened was I used to fight in tournament after tournament. I used to, like literally hundreds of hours traveling, competing, going to just different events, losing, getting, winning some, and you just keep doing that, just building all this great experience. And when I was in London, I started to work out with Neville Ray, who's an amazing martial artist and fighter. And we start to, I'd work with him and be, fighting and traveling with him and the team and all those guys. There's a bunch of guys, I could name them all.
Can you, that was still Lagor, correct?
That was still Lagor, yeah. So we're talking about Neville Ray. And Neville Ray was from, I think he's from the original Lagor team in Birmingham. And that spread across the country. So there's all these different schools of same school of Lagor, but all these different clubs and all these different teachers who were teaching Lagor. And the strength of Lagor was a traditional style, but its strength was in fighting. That's where the fighters were really strong. an amazing team of fighters. Because, you know, they were bred. We were bred in a certain way to approach fighting at this level and push each other. And I think that was really a great experience to be amongst those guys. So when I was out fighting and traveling and moving around, I was starting to shape myself. But something happened to me because I used to box a lot as well. So at some point, I think it was 1984, I went to Europe and I won a European championship with Peter Edwards. Peter Edwards was my roommate at the time, and he was also my teammate. And we went out to Europe, and we fought at the European Championships. And that was pretty crazy because we both won. He won the heavyweight, I won the light heavyweight division. But what it did to my confidence was incredible. Actually, it was a funny story about that because the night before we'd been working out, and I was teaching a martial arts school, which I had at the time. And we were sparring together, and he hit me, and I fell, and I hit my head on the floor, and I got knocked out. I was totally unconscious. And he woke me up and said, "You okay?" I said, he said, "You're going to be okay for tomorrow?" I said, "What's happening tomorrow?" He says, "We're going to Germany to compete in the European Championships." I said, "Are you kidding me?" I totally lost my memory. So by the time we got to Germany the next day, my memory started coming back, and it was so cold there that as soon as I walked out of the airport, my brain cleared, and all my memory came back just in time to win the European Championship. But that was a great year for me because the European Championships, I was traveling back and forth. I was in Brooklyn. I was in Germany, and I started to, find myself as a fighter. I was coming into my prime, or pre-prime, and I was looking at fighters all over Europe, and then fighting in the States a lot. And then 1980, I think it was 85. No, 84. It's probably 84. So Germany might have been 83. So I think it was 84 when they did the FSK, Freestyle Karate Circuit in England, which was the first ever national point system where they would rank the fighters. And I really wanted to win that badly because I wanted to be number one. And that was great motivation for me. So I went to that event, and up until then, I'd done pretty good, even though I'd won the European Championship at the time before, but I wasn't still grounded. I come third, I come fourth, I come fifth, I come first, I come first, I come second, I come first, I come joint first, joint second, first, whatever. And that was what was happening. So this time the FSK came. I said to myself, I'm just going to go out there, I'm going to have fun, I'm going to enjoy myself, I'm going to smile, I'm going to have a great time. So when I went out there to fight, I did that. And for me, everything came together because it kind of unlocked my ability. When I started to learn how to control my mind and relax and enjoy the fight, everything that I had as a fighter became free and accessible to me because I was free to move and put all this work in. All this work in that I put in, I was able to access it. And fortunately, it was happened to be on the first event of the FSK, so every great fighter in the country was there. And my timing was impeccable because I couldn't be beaten. I beat everyone. And my style of fighting kind of, everything was coming together from the boxing because I incorporate kind of boxing moves within the way I blitz and the way I do things. That's just from the years of working the boxing and working the different types of fight and approach and finding my own style. But the main thing, what really unlocked was just changing my mindset. I'm a pretty intense guy. I used to walk around and see guys who might lose a fight, and then they're laughing and they're joking. Let's go out, let's hang out, let's whatever. And I could never do it. What's wrong with these guys? They seem to be happy. They just lost. I'm the kind of guy where if you lost, I pick myself up and have to keep searching what happened, what went wrong. That was good in some ways, but it's also very restrictive. So once I learned this way of making it enjoyable, and I realized that if I'm going to fight, fighting is the most, no matter how hard you train, you cannot replace the ability of fighting. You've got to fight, no matter what. You've got to spar. You've got to fight. There's no other way of improving that fight except by doing the actual very thing. So I thought, okay, if this is going to be it, I've got to learn how to enjoy this, because I'm going to be fighting for years, and if I want to be as good as I say I want to be, I've got to learn how to experience it and enjoy it, have fun, and master it from that perspective. So I changed my brain. I rewired my head somehow, and I found my way into it. It's like, everyone's got their own ways, but you have to unlock what works for you. And once I did that, that was it. The floodgates opened. And as you win, this is the science of nature. Once you win, your confidence goes up, and then when your confidence goes up, you get better, and your confidence rises, and you just keep going up and up and up and up and up and up and up until you're at a certain level. I remember when I started to, I used to always think to myself, what would Ali do now if he was me? Or what if I was Ali, what would Ali do now? What would Ali do now if I was going into a fight? And then I remember when I started to think, what would Kevin Brewerton do now? Then I realized that somehow, subconsciously, I reached a level of believing in myself. And that's what it really comes down to, I think, believing in yourself in terms of competition.
Well, it's interesting because basically you started beginning with the end in mind, and you're standing on the shoulders of giants, and you're mimicking them, and somehow that works out. And that happens, doesn't matter what part of the world you are, what endeavor it is, the industry is a constant. We actually have role models, like sometimes it's imaginary role models, and always mimicking, whether it's Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali and Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk combined with a Puerto Rican from the Bronx, and I came up with Sassy, or at least my mother gave me that nickname. Who gave you your nickname? Who helped you transform into that guy?
You know what? It's weird. I was in my kitchen. I was in London. I was with Peter Edwards, Dennis Wilson, Steve Brooks. I can't remember who else was there. There's a few other guys, and we were putting the team together. We were fighting on the A team. So we said we should all have nicknames. So we all give each other nicknames. I don't know where it came from, but I gave myself the name Jedi. Which is kind of worked for me then. Still does. I think it's all about. I'm always about the mind. So if you've got the mind incorporated, I think that's what the Jedi is doing. It's all mental. So
no doubt about it. Yeah, let me just get a little more specific here because it's interesting. That means that when we met, I believe it was about 83-84, when you came to Brooklyn, and props to Barrett Sweeney, who literally is one of the unsung heroes who not only promoted from both sides of the ocean, but he actually competed too. So much props to him, Barrett Sweeney there.
Yeah, big props to Barrett, who was promoting.
Yeah. And actually, he's in California now, believe it or not. He just got there. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah, he's in Cali. Yeah.
I go all over the world. But yeah. I want to talk about Waco, man. I want to talk about Waco. I want to talk about specific events, man, because you started, the way I saw it was I fought this guy in Brooklyn, and then all of a sudden he's traveling all over the freaking world. I didn't realize he was from over there. And then you started winning world titles and having tens of thousands of people following you, man. So the Waco World Championships, talk about that for a second. How did that come about?
The Waco World Championships. Well, it was like a dream because, we're all fighting, we're all training to get to your dream. That's like going to the place that we're, So, once you're selected for the team, I was having great the 2 years before as a fighter. I was really rising in my trajectory, and it was all coming together. So I was selected for the British team to compete against, to represent the England, Great Britain. And I remember going out to Budapest and Hungary in 1985 was the first world championship I won. And it was maybe the most amazing martial arts event I've seen. There was 20,000 spectators that were packed into this arena in the National Sports Center in Budapest. And it was spectacular. They had marching bands close like a TV. It was truly spectacular. Some of the great fighters. Neville was there, Neville Ray, Clive Parkinson, Humphrey Brooms was there. He was fighting. Ronnie Green, I believe, was with us on that event. And Howard Brown. And, the British team were winning gold medals everywhere. It was a terrific event. And now that event was something I'll always remember, because for me, I always remember working my way through